Hi everyone, let's talk about the strategies to reduce mass movement. So you've learned that humans often destabilize slopes. How do humans, us as humans, destabilize them to prevent catastrophes for our development? The first way is pinning, where we take metal rods and we kind of anchor it, we stab it into the slopes, as seen in this diagram. So maybe potentially loose rocks together, or maybe two layers of rocks that may create slip planes. So maybe this may be a potential slip plane in the future. You're stabbing it in so that the two rocks or the two layers may be regular if anything. They don't move, so you prevent mass movements. It can also be used to attach nets. So netting is our next method. As you can see over here, there's four points where the net has to be kind of anchored to. Otherwise, it would just like fly away. So pinning can help with netting as well. However, it may cause cracks because especially for hard rocks, maybe granite, which are quite resistant, you're stabbing into it, they may cause a lot of pressure, so you're going to crack your rocks. So that leads to maybe more weathering, more infiltration, oversaturating, and also may migrate your slip plane more inwards, so you need to have longer nails in the future. It's also quite heavy, so this aspect of longer nail is needed because it's really heavy. It's designed to not move, to stay there permanently. So it's stabbed here, but it's adding mass to the slope. What about the slip planes downwards? What about the fault lines downwards? Anything, any potential slip planes, area of weaknesses down there? Stabbing it into here will increase the mass of this upper layer, which may then lead to mass movement along the slip plane if there were not longer nails connected. So that may be a potential issue that arises with pinning, but it's often quite rare, and pinning is often one of the most effective ways to reduce mass movements. Next one is netting. There's two ways. There's draping or tensioning. Draping is kind of loosely covering it with a net, whereas tensioning is you're tightening it. So it kind of depends on the hazard. If the area is really hazardous with rock falls, kind of very often, you might want to tension it to really prevent any rock falls. Whereas draping, you're maybe less concerned about it. Maybe there's less damage that may be incurred. So you have a cheap and easy way to just drape it over. It prevents rockfall and it helps you collect screed fragments down there so that you don't get mass movements with the screed themselves. But what if it doesn't work with slopes that have loose and soil regolith, such as mud or maybe clay, which can just kind of escape through the gaps in the nets. So netting is only useful for large rocks, cases of rockfall, instead of these loose mud clay material. Grading is reducing your slope angle, and there's two ways. There's terracing or benching, and flattening. Flattening, you're just removing your slope itself, and it's quite rare because it's really expensive to do. So we generally do benching and terracing. So the black outline over here is the original slope, and the dotted outline is how you excavated it, and you fill it, excavated, and you fill it until the slope angle, which is over here, is less steep than this angle of the original slope. So this decreases your shear stress. However, it requires excavation, and if you watch my last video, excavation is required. Excavation will lead to destabilizing of mass movements. So that's a trade-off there. Initial, maybe potentially risking mass movements to stabilize slopes. And also water. What are you going to do about the water that sits on the flat areas and they sit there, they oversaturate your soil, and instead of going down slope, so you have more water in your slope overall, and that may be an issue. Drainage comes apart. Water is a really common source of mass movements. They lead to weathering, they lead to lubrication, they lead to added mass. So it's best to remove as much water as you can from the slope to prevent mass movements. And they can either occur through subsurface, which is underground drainage, or surface drainage. So as you can see here, there's two diagrams. The first diagram is subsurface drainage, so underground. You're inserting pipes into the slope to direct water from cracks, from pores, out of the slope. So you're removing it that way. Or it can be surface, so you have drains on the surface. So any water, maybe doing benching, you can put drains like these areas, so you can direct water away when it falls into it. However, if there's clogs, so maybe someone litters on it, or maybe there's deposition of soil or anything, it will clog up the drains, and the water would just sit there, and it kind of acts it makes the drainage redundant. And also, if you have this blob of water, right, instead of having the previous maybe mixture of soil and water, you have this whole block of water, and it will be generally much more heavier than if it was a mixture. So you're increasing your mass if there are clogs. Cracks may also occur, especially with weaker pipes like plastic pipes and stuff. So cracks occur, and you're just giving it a pathway, giving water a pathway to enter your clogs and then get into other cracks of your soil and your rock. So these are potential issues of drainage. So it requires often a lot of maintenance to be really effective. Next one is afforestation. So you're just planting trees. The first thing it does is it grows your roots. So as you can see here, the roots grow and they hold together your potential slip planes, area of weaknesses. It also protects you from erosion. So rain splash erosion, there's interception, so there's not too much compaction. Your rills and your sheet wash, they are disrupted, so you don't have too much of erosion that may cause undercutting. It increases infiltration, so you're allowing the water to go through faster, so you don't have too much erosion because of overflowing, but also you're allowing the water to go down deeper, so it's kind of like a de facto drainage in a way, as in the water goes down to your groundwater quicker, so you don't have as much water in your slope than if there were no vegetation. However, vegetation itself do accelerate weathering, like chelation, and also vegetation root action, so they may cause some cracks and stuff, and they add mass to it, especially if your roots are shallow. So let's say this tree over here, right? The roots have not grabbed onto the other area of weaknesses further deep into the slope. So if it adds mass, similar to the issue of pinning, adds mass to the top layer but not the bottom layer, and it's not holding the bottom layer and the top layer, then there might be mass movements along the slip planes deeper in. So next one is gabions. Gabions are metal cages of maybe rocks inside, and they are really resistant to erosion and weathering. So it protects from undercutting. So you can see here, it's pushed against the toe of the cliff. So it reinforces it, it holds back it, so your mass won't be as trying to go down, right? It's being pushed back, and also it prevents from undercutting. So yeah. However, it requires often maintenance because it's directing the erosion and weathering away to the gabions instead of the toe. So you require constant maintenance of the rocks, maybe replacing it, maybe upgrading it, whatever, right? But the maintenance is required, and also the sourcing of the rock in an area where maybe the weathering and the the erosion rates of the cliff is high. Generally, you won't find the rocks that are resistant to erosion and weathering in the local area, so you might have to go far away, which is expensive and time-consuming. So that's another factor to think about when you're talking about gabions. For grouting, you're injecting cracks, fault lines, anything like gaps in between rocks and maybe soil, pores and stuff with cement. So it prevents infiltration, prevents water from filling up your slope. And also you can use this up here in your pinning. It may cause cracks. So what people usually do is they use grouting to fill up all the cracks that do occur when there's pinning. So you can combine them two as well. So that's what's good about grouting, but it also requires quite a lot of maintenance, because grouting, you do have often weathering of the grouting, because water was to get through. Nature is really stubborn. It wants to get water into the cracks for some reason. So you have to constantly maintain your cement, injecting it. So that's an issue with grouting as well. For shotcrete, it's basically spraying concrete over your slope surface. So you're kind of like holding it together with impermeable concrete. So water doesn't get into your slopes. You're holding it together. It acts like a net as well. And that's good, right? But the concrete cracks very easily because it's just a thin layer of concrete. So it cracks easily. Water can still get past. And so you have your concrete here and your slope here. If it cracks, water can get in, and now your concrete acts as something to have mass movements on. So that's maybe another issue for shotcrete. So this sums up the strategies to reduce mass movements. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.